So things are really weird right now in the ACT world, mainly because there are 3 ACT exams coming up within the next couple weeks, which I don't think has ever happened before, at least not when I was taking the exam. So given that, I'm going to assume that there are a lot of students that are cramming, at least out of the students that I've been talking to and that I'm tutoring, there are a lot of students that are cramming. And because of that, I wanted to provide not just a regular cramming video like we usually do, but something more in-depth and more thorough that'll give you a study plan and set of things that you can do, and when exactly you should do them and how you should decide what you should be doing and when, so you can figure out a study plan that works for you. So in this video series, and this is the first of those 3 videos that we're going to be doing for this week, we're going to be discussing the first step in developing that study plan, what it's going to look like, how you should follow it, what things you should and should not be doing, when and how, and all those things. So like I said, this is the first video we're gonna have. So this video is dropping on Monday. If you're watching this the day it dropped, that's today. We're gonna have a video on Wednesday of the week of the ACT exam, and then Friday. So regardless of when you're watching this, this is obviously September of 2020. If you're watching this later, you can apply these same principles to the week of your ACT exam to create a study plan that'll work for you in your remaining time before your test. So what exactly we're gonna be talking about in today's video? It's going to be getting the thing started. So there's 5 things that I have that I want to talk about. The first 3 are actual, developing the study plan. The last 2 are things that you want to keep in mind that you really don't want to be doing when it comes to cramming. I really want to emphasize that there are certain things that you don't want to do because you don't want to waste time, you don't want to waste content, you don't want to waste practice exams. And those are kind of what those last few things that I have, that's what they'll talk about. So make sure you watch those as well, because if you do those things, then it can really cripple your ability to improve, and it can waste a lot of your time, which you don't have a lot of. So make sure you understand those things pretty well. In the coming videos, we'll talk about how you can continue your study plan, how you can make sure that you're still making progress. If you feel kind of stuck, how can you unstuck your your score or whatever situation you're in. We'll talk about those things as well, but this is just to get you started, right? So I've been kind of chatting for 2 minutes. Let's actually get into the stuff. So the first thing out of the 5 things that I have in terms of what you need to do, why and when, is you need to start by reviewing your practice exams if you have any that you've taken already. So a lot of you guys, maybe this is your first time actually getting into practicing for the ACT. If that is, that's totally fine. You can actually skip this step. There's nothing for you to do here. If this is not your first practice exam, if you've never really done if you have done prep before, then you need to make an honest effort to understand your practice exams by actually going through them and trying to understand what you did wrong and why. A lot of students skip this step, and the reason, I know it's kind of hard to do this, I didn't do this as much as I should have when I was prepping, but the reason it's so important is because you don't have a lot of time and you need to figure out what you're struggling with. Doing this is going to help you figure those things out in terms of what strategies you're struggling with, which sections you're struggling more with, what kind of things. Is it timing? Is it a certain skill or a set of skills? Is there a class that you missed, like a math class back in high school, that you just don't really have a good understanding of, or maybe that you were taking online because of the situation that we're in and you didn't get the understanding that you needed. You need to figure those things out first and foremost, so you can develop a study plan that will help you improve in those areas, whether it's a certain strategy or it's a certain set of skills or a specific thing. So first and foremost, review your practice exams. Understand what you did wrong, why you did things wrong, what the correct answer is for the questions that you got wrong, and why it's correct. Especially for English math, you need to do this in the realm of skills, like understanding the skills behind each question. And for reading and science, you need to do this more so from the perspective of, what was my strategy? Was it a timing issue? Was there an issue with the way I was reading the passage? I'll get into how you can figure those things out in just a little bit, but at least diagnose what the issue is, okay? What the issues are, which is most likely the case. There's probably a number of things that are giving you trouble, because that's the way the ACT exam works, right? Once you've got that out of the way, you need to figure out how much you need to actually practice this week. Typically, what I recommend in the week of the ACT exam is you want to peak at like 2 exams, but I know that you have 4 days left, full days just about, before your ACT exam. So, and I know there's going to be a lot of students that want to take like 3-4 practice exams. I'm just going to say on the record, I don't recommend doing that, because you could do 1 full practice exam per day. Look, if you have a ton of time on your hands and you want to do something like that, go ahead. I don't recommend it. I recommend sticking closer to 2 exams for this week as a maximum. But again, if you really want to push yourself and if you're not afraid of burning out, then that's something you can consider. I just don't recommend it, okay? So 2 exams I think is a healthy amount as a maximum, but again, you can do more if you like. And it's not just that you're taking these practice exams. So just to clarify, this is my second point. The first point was you want to review your past exams if you have any. Second point, this is what we're on right now, is to practice. So when it comes to practicing, you need to figure out, the main thing is how much practice do you do, which is why I recommend 2 to 4. 2 is better. And in terms of, when you're practicing, the whole point is not just to take a bunch of exams and complete them, because it's not that easy to improve. You actually have to first of all, try different things. You have to try different strategies, try different methods of attacking these different sections. So for example, if you are struggling with reading and science, find a reading method that works for you in terms of skimming or reading in depth or whatever it is. We have videos that go over this, so you can figure out a method that works for you and that you can experiment with. So you want to experiment with different things and see what works and what doesn't, because different students have different ways of going about our reading strategy, our passage glancing strategy. If what I'm talking about is kind of, sounds like jibber jabber and you don't really understand, then I recommend you watch some of the videos that we have about the ways that you can go about reading on the reading and science sections to understand as much information as possible and not waste time while you're doing that, all right? So make that a point. Also, keep one thing in mind, keep burnout in mind. Like, if you practice too much, there's a good chance that you'll just be tired of taking these practice exams. So keep that in mind, because some students, they don't have the capability of just doing 12 practice exams in a short amount of time, or doing, I know I said 4, so like 4 in a short amount of time. If that's you, then don't set too high of a goal and try to like if you end up on the Friday before the test and you have to do 2 full exams, that's probably not healthy. You're gonna just get tired. So keep that in mind. And also make it a point to split up exams if you need to, right? If you're taking 2 full exams and you have 4 days, you can do like 2 sections one day, 2 sections the next, 2 sections the next. Go like that, like do English, math one day, then reading, science the next. You can definitely do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I would recommend that before you take the exam, have one time or one chance at least where you've taken the entire exam in one go, the 5 sections or 4 sections, depending on what you're doing. So have that at least once, but you don't have to do that every single time. You don't always have to take it all in one sitting, all right? So that was my second point out of my 5. I know that was kind of long, but it's all about practicing. When you practice, how much. 2 to 4 is my rule of thumb. Keep in mind that you don't want to practice too much. If you want to go towards the higher number, then you probably need a lot of time, at least 3-4 hours a day. I mean, you definitely need 3-4 hours a day to practice, and you need to probably it's probably because you have a lofty goal in terms of improvement and you have a short amount of time, and because it might also be a factor of you haven't just practiced that much yet. So keep those things in mind. I just don't recommend doing that much, but if you want to, go ahead, that's up to you. All right. Once you've done that, the third thing is you need to review your practice exams. Like the first step, make it a point to review the exams that you take. Do it right after you take them. So if you take two sections on one day, once you're done with those 2 sections, review them after you finish the practice so that you can understand what you did wrong, especially for English and math. For reading science, when it comes to review, it's more so about like assessing your strategy, not necessarily going over each question. For English math, you have to go over each question to understand the skills that you're struggling with. Ideally, if you take notes on the kind of things that you're not really doing so hot on, then that'll give you an idea of, okay, from practice exam to practice exam, can I notice some patterns? Are there certain things that I keep getting wrong again and again and again? And if you do notice those patterns, that's a great indication of, okay, I'm struggling with skill XYZ. And you can watch some of our videos about the English and math skills to get some familiarity with them, and even go over some of your past practice exams to review those kinds of questions if you want, because we'll help you identify those kinds of questions through the videos that I'm talking about. So we have the resources there on our channel that'll help you. You just have to use them. Watching those skill videos, watching the videos about the different ways to read on the reading and science sections, that'll help you out there, all right? So review practice exams, try to understand what you did wrong, why, especially English and math, understand the skill behind each question, understand the procedure behind each question. And if you have issues with that, then again, that's kind of tough. I don't really know what to tell you if you're doing this all on your own. But again, the more practice you do, the more you follow this methodology and try to at least understand your correct answers or your mistakes and why they're incorrect, that'll help you try to at least fill in those skill gaps to whatever extent that you can in this last week, all right? Those 3 things are kind of how you develop the study plan. It's more so, for the start, you want to review your past stuff, and then you want to go into taking the right amount of practice exams throughout the course of the week, just distribute it evenly, ideally. And then after each practice exam, you're going to make it a point to, quite literally, I'd recommend right after, review it, grade it, understand what you did wrong, try to take notes on it, the skills that you're struggling with, the question types that you're struggling with, and reviewing those videos that I talked about with the skills for English, math, reading, science, or the question types, as well as the different reading methods, that's also going to help you. All right. So the last 2 things that I have are about things that you should not be doing, mainly because there are some things that can really compromise your improvement as well as really waste your time and your resources. So the first thing is, don't waste your exams. Don't do more than 1 exam per day, because again, that's just a lot of practice. Even 1 full exam, that's like 3-4 hours at least of content that you're consuming, that you're sitting down and just doing. If you do 2 full exams in a day, that's like 6-7 hours at least. And that's a lot of work, and you're really gonna do a lot to like burn yourself out at that point. So don't force yourself if you're in that situation where it's like maybe the Thursday before or the Friday before, and you have to take 2 full exams in a day. really, I would not recommend doing that. 1 a day is your max, because it's gonna tire you out and you're just gonna get sick of it. So don't do that. And there's also the element of, it might hurt your performance if you do that. In addition, you're also gonna be wasting that practice exam. If you take a practice exam in a time where you're kind of just tired, you're not feeling it, then you're really going to struggle on that exam, and that exam is effectively wasted. Like, you didn't do your best, you didn't utilize it to the best of your ability, and you know that practice exams are a limited resource, so you need to make the most of them. Don't waste practice exams. And another thing is, when you're practicing with different strategies and you're taking practice exams, don't just do the same thing again and again and try to expect different results. If you do the same exact strategy and you do the same exact method or timing or whatever it is, and you expect that, okay, all of a sudden my score is going to go up for some reason, that's not typically how it works. Now, I know there are some strategies like passage lensing or with skimming that you just have to practice, and you have to try to do it again and again to an extent to see, okay, I know at a certain point you will find that improvement. I've seen students that have just practiced it again and again, maybe like sit down on one day, do it 3-4 times on a reading exam, like set of exams, and their score starts to go up little by little, or maybe right at the end it starts to go up. So there are certain strategies where to an extent you can just keep practicing it. But again, you don't want to waste those exams. There are certain things outside of the passage lensing or the skimming techniques, practicing that like if you just try to do the same thing again and again, it's not really going to work like that. You have to try different things. You have to experiment with different methods of timing, of strategies. We have different strategies on our YouTube channel that you can experiment with, like I've talked about. But don't just try to do the same thing again and again and again. If, like, let's say for example you're trying to experiment with passage lensing and you're trying to get in that experimentation and the practice volume, then one thing you could do is, instead of just doing the same thing again and again and again, at least when you're in the exam, try a different method of timing yourself. So instead of spending maybe close to 2 minutes, if you're going a bit too fast, or if you're going like 4 minutes and you're going too slow, try speeding it up a bit, or change it up when you're in the exam itself. Because if you do the same exact thing again and again, you're typically going to get the same score. So you have to modify things at a certain point in most cases. And again, if you have questions about this, you can ask us in the comments. We'll try to help you out. But like, it's also case by case. But again, the general strategy is, don't expect different results if you're doing the exact same thing on every exam, because that's the way it's going to work. It's just going to end up being the same result. So keep those things in mind. I hope that was helpful. Those are my 5 things that I wanted to go over here. If you guys need prep resources, we have 6 free practice exams linked below. They are official exams, so you can use them. They have complete solutions, or sorry, not solutions, but they have the answer key attached to them as well. So you can do all the exercises that I discussed and do your cramming with those exams. So I hope that was helpful. Watch out for the videos that we're releasing in the next couple days for the rest of your cramming study plan, how to progress. So once you've done the initial things here, what are your next steps? How can you make the most of the time that you have left? And what things do you need to do? We'll be going over all those things in the next few videos. So hope to see you there. And we'll also have a live stream right before the exam. Regardless of when you're taking it, we should have an exam, a live stream right before, the night before. So watch that as well if you have any last minute questions, you can get them answered live, and we will be there for you. And if you need any more help with prepping, with strategies, with learning skills, and we have more content on our website that we help students out with. And we even have a cramming plan if you're interested to just get some practice questions in and get some content development in terms of learning skills, learning strategies, that kind of thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. Best of luck on your exams, and stay tuned for more stuff coming on our channel and on our website. All right, see you.